I'm Rocky Stern. My official name is Carolyn Rochelle Stern. I was actually born Rochelle Carolyn Stern, but they never called me that. They, my folks changed it early on, and somehow I got the nickname Rocky from the time I was born, and I still have it. I grew up on 36th and Cass, 3652 Cass. It was a row of duplexes, and it was really a great place to grow up. There were lots of Jewish people in the duplexes to the west. My sister-in-law, Shelley Green, and I grew up next door to each other. Um, I had pets. My first dog was an Irish setter by the name of King. Following that, I had another Irish setter by the name of Pat. I had a collie by the name of Tippy. Somehow, my folks we always had dogs. And after I was married, we too had dogs and later cats. I went to Saunders grade school, had to walk to school every day, back and forth, came home for lunch, walked back to school, whether it was raining or snowing, it didn't matter. Probably a good 8 blocks, but my folks only had one car, so we had to walk it along with the neighborhood kids. It was a great neighborhood to grow up in. We were always outside playing. I remember playing ball with Art Green, that was Shelley's dad. After dinner, we could hardly wait to go out in the backyard and throw the ball around. And we roller skated. My folks bought me a bicycle, but they would only let me go around the block. I could never cross the street. And they were very happy when my bike got stolen, and of course they didn't replace it. I went to Central High School. Those were great years. I loved it. I belonged to Deb Kadebs. I had a lot of good friends. Marlene Swartz Levinson, who had a car. One of the few people who had a car, was a super good friend. And I just remember being very active at Central. I was in the a cappella choir, and I had a lead in the HMS Pinafore and Chocolate Soldier. Loved performing, did the road show, and then Deb Kadebs, we did a lot of shows also at the Jewish Community Center. We'd go there every day after school and just meet friends and had our organization meetings there, and we were always doing productions, things. It was fun. I also took swimming lessons at the JCC as a young girl. Those were good times. Then when I graduated high school, I went to Indiana University. I wanted to sort of get away from all of my close friends, see if I could make it on my own. It was kind of a challenge, but it was good. I had 2 great years at Indiana University. I joined Sigma Delta Tau, and I was in elementary education. I really had wanted to teach first, second, or third grade. But when I came home after my second year at Indiana, I met Artie Stern, met him at the JCC. He was with his friend Justin Horwich, and he called me that night after we met and asked me out. So we started dating, and that summer I happened to be going to Camp JCC as a counselor, but we were able to meet after the kids were in bed and asleep, and my junior counselor took over, and I would go have a cup of coffee with Arnie, and we fell in love, and he asked me to marry him, and so I didn't go back to school. I got married November 23rd of 1958, and we went to Chicago for our honeymoon. It was a fun wedding. My mom and I just had a great time spending the whole fall planning the wedding. It was at Bethel, the old Bethel on Farnham Street, and with a reception at the Highland Country Club, which was great. And then shortly after that, Artie and I talked and decided that maybe it was time to start a family. He was 7 years older than I, so that probably was a pretty good plan. The following year, November 30th of 59, John was born. And that was just a real treat. The first grandchild for my folks and for my in-laws, and everybody was thrilled. And then 2.5 years after that, Richard was born, April 8th, 1962, and that was also a lot of a lot of fun, getting busier and busier. And then I think it was about 4 years after that, Jeffrey was born, Jeffrey Stern. Well, maybe I'll talk about the grandparents, because when I was young, I spent a lot of time going to Council Bluffs. My grandma, Esther and Max Cohn, lived in Council Bluffs right next to their grocery store. And it was such a treat going over there. I got to pick anything I wanted, any of the candy that I wanted out of the store. And my grandmother would fix me anything I wanted for dinner. She was a wonderful cook and a baker, and I loved their house. It was a 2-story house, and you could just walk right from the grocery store to the house, back and forth. And that was great. My grandparents on my mother's side, that was Martha and Reuben Bordy. We were all very close. I was the second grandchild to them. I was the first grandchild to the other grandparents. My cousin Sandy Fiddler, that would be my mother's oldest sister, and her husband had Sandy and Donnie. And we were all a very closely knit family. We would spend holidays together. If it was a matter of having dinner, we would have 2 dinners, first at the Cohns and then at the Bordys, or vice versa, first at the Bordys and then at the Cohns. And I remember going to the synagogue in Council Bluffs. We would go there for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We used to have to spread ourselves around so that we got to be with everybody. And we celebrated lots of birthdays and anniversaries together. My mother had a large family. There were 6 sisters, Ruth being the oldest. My mother was next. Then I think it was Fran Bernstein, Norman Bordy, Betty Cutler, Judy Swiskay. So it was a large family, but they had a lovely house on 56th and Leavenworth, and we used to spend a lot of time there. It was a big house and had all kinds of nooks and crannies, and we played and hid and just had a lot of fun there, and a lot of meals there also. I don't think Grandma Bordy loved to cook that much, but the other girls would, the daughters would pitch in, and they were all great cooks. let me think. What else can I tell you about?
Were you close with your cousins then?
I was particularly close with Sandy because she and I were only 9 months apart. The other cousins were all younger. Not that we weren't close because we were all together for holidays, but she was like, one of my really close friends as well as being a cousin. And the other ones, I used to babysit for. When my folks would go out of town, I would stay at the Bernstein's house or the Fiddler's house. So yes, we were all close. Now, Judy Swiskay didn't live in Omaha. She and her husband lived in New York, and Betty and her husband Al lived in Waterloo, Iowa, until he passed away, and then Betty moved with her children to Omaha. But because they were all younger, I wasn't as close as I was to Sandy. And I am still close to Sandy. We talked on the phone just a couple of days ago. I'm sad to know that she is beginning to lose it a little bit. Her mind isn't as good as it was, and it used to be great. She could remember everything, but she knows my phone number, and she calls me, or I call her, and we visit, and I'm close with her daughter Cynthia, who's kind of in charge of her well-being. Cynthia lives between Santa Fe and New York City, where Sandy lives. Jan Cutler, Betty's daughter, lives in Omaha, and I'm close with Betty, or I'm close with Jan. She comes for Passover, she comes for Break the Fast, and we get together and have lunch and talk about the family and old times, and I would say she and I are close.
Tell me about your parents.
Tell you about my parents. My parents were lovely. My mother was beautiful. She had a great figure. She had a great sense of style. She and I were very close. Being an only child, I think she really enjoyed spending time with me, and when I'd come home from a date, she'd be there waiting, and she and I would sit and talk, and she'd want to know all about what everybody was wearing and what everybody was doing, and just all that was going on. And my dad was just a super dad. He was a good-looking guy and a great athlete, a wonderful golfer. He taught me how to play golf, and he and I would go to the driving range, and I think he was really pleased that I enjoyed golf as much as I did. They belonged to the Highland Country Club, and I was fortunate enough to get some golf lessons from Henry Williams at the country club. I played golf out there. I won a trophy once in a city golf tournament that was, or a city or state, I'm not sure. I don't remember now what it was, but I still have a silver pitcher to prove my golfing prowess, which really is not very good anymore, but I still play once a week in the summertime with a bunch of gals, and we get out and hit the ball around, and it's more about lunch and good friends than it is about the golf. I also, my dad was a really good bowler also, and taught me how to bowl, but Arnie was a bowling instructor also and taught me how to bowl. I can't say I'm very good, but I still do it once a week in the wintertime.
What did your father do?
My father, I think before I was born, was maybe involved in merchants wholesale, maybe a salesman. And actually, maybe even when I was a young girl, because I remember him on the phone talking to maybe grocery stores, taking their order for wholesale groceries. But then later on, he and my Uncle Norman bought a business called Lipsy Meat Company, which was a wholesale meat company. and they sold to mostly to restaurants. They were a competitor of Omaha Steaks, which was then called Table Supply, but of course, Table Supply was much bigger than my father's business. And my Uncle Norman had lung cancer, and he passed away. And my father later had cancer and passed away. So Arnie was able to sell the business to, I think, some people by the name of Fisher. We used to have great meat. I remember asking my folks what was for dinner, and they'd say steaks, and I'd say steaks again. It was like, it felt like we were having steaks every night, which I'm sure we weren't. But we had great meat growing up. And my mother was a really good cook. I still use a lot of her recipes today. And I remember my folks, when I was in Indiana, came out to visit me there. I think maybe a couple times they came out. I don't really remember taking vacations with my folks, other than maybe going to weddings. I remember going to Aberdeen, South Dakota with my folks and some of the family for Bubbles Pred, I think was her name, her wedding in Aberdeen. And I also remember going to Aberdeen for a bar mitzvah, maybe not more than one, maybe just one bar mitzvah. But my folks would take golfing trips. That's what they loved to do. And they'd get out of Omaha in the wintertime, and the two of them would probably go with friends, somewhere warm to play golf. But no, I didn't get to take many vacations other than the weddings.
When you and Arnie were first married, were you involved in any, before you had children and then after, involved in any organizations?
We were Arnie and I were very involved in Variety Club. Arnie was president for a number of years of Variety Club, and I was active in the women's organization of Variety Club. Variety Club was actually one of the largest children's charities in the world. And as a couple, we would go to the Variety Club conventions. We went to Mexico, I remember, with Barbara and Dean Frankel. I'm sure Arnie was president at that time, and Dean was probably also an officer, and Barbara was, I believe, president of the women's organization. I think I don't remember exactly what office I held. I was never president, but I may have been secretary or treasurer. I'm not sure. And I was also active in the Bethel Sisterhood. I was treasurer of that for a number of years. Arnie was president of Bethel Synagogue. Arnie was active in a lot of organizations, and it seemed like whatever organization he was involved in, he always ended up being the treasurer or the president of the organization. He was a leader, and he used to enjoy doing that. That was a good thing. He was very involved in the tennis association in Omaha as well.
How about when the kids were little?
Well, when the kids were little, we started a ski trip business, and we actually started that through the Jewish Community Center. Arnie and I thought that there was sort of a need to get teenagers out to Colorado, so we talked to Chuck Arnold at the time and made arrangements for the bus and place to stay in Colorado, and figured out what the cost would be to put a trip together, and we sold it through the Jewish Community Center, and it was very, very successful. The trip filled up, and a year later, they wanted us to do it again. We hooked up with Ron and Susan Budwig and ran more teen trips. We would do it during the break, President's break, or whatever breaks, spring break. And we would also take our kids with us. And they were very successful. And at the same time, the adults wanted to go. So we started putting together trips for just adults, and those too were successful. So we talked and decided that Ron Budwig at the time had been working for Nadelson's, and I think his job ended there, and we decided that that could become a business. And we worked out of Ron's basement, putting together ski trips, starting with, kids and adults, and we would contact ski groups as well as high schools. We did these trips for Creighton, and we did them for Westside, and we did them for Gross and Marion, and you name the school, and we put together ski trips for them. And it turned out it was really a nice little business, and it was fun, and we got our kids skiing, and we got larger and moved to a location on it was about 82nd and L Street. We had an office there. Susan joined us after she closed up her needlepoint studio, which was in Countryside Village, and she joined us and worked with us. And Jeannie Cohn Shekhet worked for us, and we hired a travel agent who was in charge of doing airfare. And it turned out we were doing ski trips all over the United States, ski clubs and colleges, and we would do all the ski areas in Colorado. We'd do Vail and Aspen and Steamboat and Snowmass and Crested Butte and Telluride and Monarch. We did some in Utah. We did Snowbird and Deer Valley. I think, well, maybe we didn't do Sun Valley. I can't remember whether we did Sun Valley or not, but we did a lot of them. And as a result, my kids love skiing, and John went to college in a ski area in Durango, Colorado, Fort Lewis College. And Richard went to school in Colorado Springs, so he could ski at Breckenridge. And Jeffrey went to school at Vermont, so he could ski there, and then changed to Boulder, so he could do some skiing too. The kids are still, except for Jeffrey, who has kind of a bad back and doesn't ski anymore, but John visits the grandkids. Two of the grandkids live in Crested Butte. So they too are hooked on skiing, and one grandkid right now lives in Durango, but I think she's moving back to Colorado Springs. The other one lives in Colorado Springs, but my son Richard, who lives in Colorado Springs, has a condo in Breckenridge, and he and his wife are, ski as much as possible. And, as I said, John skis out in Crested Butte as often as he can get out there. Jeff doesn't ski anymore, but yeah, we got him started on skiing, and it's been a good thing.
But about what you did, I know that you were in a business where you did a clothing line.
I did.
Okay.
After the ski trip business, I worked with a company called the Carlisle Collection, And I did it on my own for a year, and then I hooked up with Linda Hall. Linda and I were partners, and I think we did that for maybe 19 years. It was an expensive line of clothing, and it was only done through personal contact. I had a helper, Vicki Parks, Vicki Stevenson at the time, her name is Parks now, worked with us. And 4 times a year we would get the line of clothing and invite people to come and see it. We had a very good list of a customer base. We had several hundred people on the list, and we would do it 4 times a year, sell the clothes. The clothes would come in and we'd have fittings. We worked with an alterations woman, and then, you know, after the clothes were altered, we would deliver them. And it got to be, I mean, it was a fun business, and I loved meeting the people and working with the people, but after 19 years, we were ready to move on, and we were lucky that we were able to sell the business. We found a couple of younger women that were interested in buying it. Unfortunately, they didn't work it as hard as we did because it was hard work, and I don't think they did it for more than a couple of years. We worked with them for 1 year. That was our arrangement, and we did work with them for 1 year, and maybe they did it for another couple years after that, but then they let it go. And the business is still in existence. There is a consultant in Omaha that does it. And then after that, Linda and Gail Parsonage and I started, well, we didn't really start, but we took over a business called E-Auction Cash. And it was a business that Gail Parsonage's husband, Ron, and Jerry Cole had started. Ron was a lawyer, and Jerry Cole was retired from his pharmacy, and they started this business, which was an eBay business. So the 3 of us took a class at the Florence home on how to go on eBay and buy and sell. And so we took the class, learned how to do it, talked to our friends, put together a mailing list, sent out a card that we were in business and we would be happy to help people downsize. We were looking for things that could be packed and shipped easily. And so I am still doing this, not a lot, but once in a while, if we get a call, somebody has sterling silver that they want to get rid of, or their china that they want to get rid of. Unfortunately, our grandkids or our kids don't seem to want our nice things, our china, crystal, and silver, and our good tchotchkes. So eBay is, you know, it's an okay way to get rid of it. To at least get something out of it, to sell it. I shouldn't say get rid of it, but to sell it. And we get a few calls a year, so we still do it. Linda and I do it.
I want to hear about your grandchildren.
They're the best. My oldest, Lydia, is getting married this summer, July 11th. Out in Crested Butte, Colorado, to a very nice young man. Lydia and I would say we were always very close. She was pretty special. Went to Central High School, was a great student, was involved in lots of things. She went to Arizona for college and became a photojournalist. Ended up with a job for the Crested Butte newspaper there, and has been living there ever since. And then there was Alice. She was actually Madison Alice Stern, that's Richard's daughter. but she is now going by Alice. She was born in Colorado Springs. She went to Western State College. She's just a bubbly, fun, wonderful young lady. Always loved having the grandkids when they come to Omaha in the summer and spend a week or two with me. It was such a treat. She is kooky and fun, and I could just eat her. She's so adorable. She is living in Durango right now, but I understand she's moving back to Colorado Springs. She bought a house there. She had a job for a company called Food Maven, and I think that she decided it was time for a change. And I don't remember the name of the company that she's working for now, but her dad says she's getting glowing reviews from the CEO or the head of the company that she's working for. And I'm just really proud of who she is and what she is. She always, as a young girl, loved to sing and be in plays, and it was always such a treat to go out to Colorado Springs and watch her perform. And then Cameron, we finally got a boy, John's second child, Cameron Stern. Cameron also went to Central High. Tall, good-looking, sweet young man. He went to Western College also. Didn't graduate, which makes me a little unhappy, but you know, he's got to do what he's got to do. And now he's living in, I'm not sure whether he's actually living in Gunnison or living in Crested Butte. He told me that he works in Crested Butte, mostly was living in Gunnison, which is just a short distance away, and was hoping maybe to move back to Crested Butte, but the rents are so high there. And he does construction, he does painting, he does building, he does snow shoveling, and somehow he's not asking anybody for money. He's managing on his own, doing what he's doing. And he doesn't get to Omaha often enough, but I'll be out there in July, so I'll get to see him then. And then my youngest grandchild is Brooklyn. Brooklyn is the studious kind. I'm so proud of her. She went to Montana, I think it's Montana State, in Bozeman, Montana. She is interested in childhood, early education, and she works with, I think, children that have issues that are difficult. She got straight A's through college, and she's getting her graduate degree. She's living in Colorado Springs, still getting straight A's, and she's just a lovely young woman. I can't say enough good things about her. And she has a boyfriend, and she seems to be very happy. So who knows, maybe one of these days I'm going to have some great-grandchildren, which I hope is going to happen while I'm still young enough to enjoy it. Not so young, but be able to enjoy it. And I'll get to see everybody together July 11th for the wedding. Okay, I guess I should mention that Arnie passed away. It was shortly after my 60th birthday. He was 67 years old. It came as a total shock. We had been out dancing. We were with, I think it was Vicki and Dick Rochman. I can't remember if there were any others with us, but we were in Council Bluffs. We used to go to the casinos, or one of the casinos, and dance because we loved to do ballroom dancing, and it was a place where there was live music and we could dance. And he just had a terrible pain while we were dancing, and he sat down, and he was really, really in bad shape. We called the rescue squad and took him to the hospital in Council Bluffs. They transferred him to Omaha to Bergen Mercy, and he died. We decided we had to move on. I mean, you don't have a choice. So we went through his things. It actually, it was okay. The kids were okay. We had a lot of laughs and went through pictures and went through his belongings, and the kids all took things, and somehow we got through it. The grandkids were there, and we moved on. And I don't know. I know I didn't sleep for days. I would worry how I was going to do it. I had never taken care of any of the finances. Arnie took care of everything, but I figured it out and just did it. I know my mother did it. That happened to her. My father died when he was 60, and my mother was a tremendous role model, and I guess I looked to her and knew she could do it, and I could do it too, and I did. Anyway, I was very fortunate that I had a lot of very close friends, and they rallied around me. And thank goodness I belonged to the bike group, and we were busy. It happened, I think it was March. Spring wasn't far away, and I was able to think about planting my flowers and going on bike rides with the friends, and that gave me a lot of comfort. And I do have to say that Don Stern, who was in practice with Arnie at the time, was also a very, very wonderful support and help. He helped me, figure things out, and Arnie had a law office at the time, and how to distribute that, and help me with my own personal finances. And I just kept going. And then I felt fortunate because Dick Rochman, who was such a good friend of ours, was single, and he and I would go to movies and go out for dinner, and he was there for me when I needed it, and we ended up having a nice relationship and a nice number of years following Arnie's death. We traveled, and I was very close with his kids, and he was very close with my kids. It was just an easy relationship. So I was very fortunate to have him in my life at that point. And then unfortunately, he became ill and had cancer, and he passed away. And I still am in touch with his kids and his grandkids. They're wonderful. And life goes on. Dick and I had been involved in a dance club, and I went to the dance club after he passed away, and there was a nice gentleman that was there, and we ended up sitting at the same table together by accident, and he and I have become very good friends, and it's nice. I care a lot about his children, and I think my kids enjoy him, and we spend a lot of time together. We travel, we visit my kids, since some of them are out of town, and we actually bowl with John every week during the winter time, so we get to see him. And he's got great kids and spend a lot of time with his kids and grandkids. So I've really had a good life, and I feel very fortunate that I can do, what I want to do. I'm financially independent. I thank Arnie for that, and I thank my mother for that. And I hope that I will have something to leave for my kids and my grandkids when it's all said and done. Well, I just hope for my kids and my grandkids that they're happy, that they live a good life, that they live a good, healthy life, that they're able to enjoy and do what they want to do, travel, but be good people. Be honest and forthright and communicate with each other and just love one another, love each other. I want you kids to be close and the grandkids to be close. And I want you to feel good about being Jewish. I didn't talk about the fact that that you kids all went to Birthright Israel, and I feel responsible for that since I encourage that and help pay for the extra things. And I'm really pleased because I think you all became much closer doing that together. But I hope that you feel that it's good to be Jewish, and I want you to be proud of that, and just be happy.